My husband threw my suitcase on the lawn and changed the locks while his girlfriend watched from our bedroom window. Neighbors filmed everything. I did not cry. I called one number. A man showed up in 20 minutes. My husband came outside yelling. The man showed him papers. My husband's face went white. He looked at the house, then at me. My name is Jada King, and I am 29 years old. Yesterday afternoon, I was just a housewife driving a 2015 Toyota Camry. By yesterday evening, I was the sole owner of a logistics empire. But in that moment, pulling into the driveway of the home I had paid for, I was just a woman being humiliated. The Atlanta sun was blazing hot. I had just picked up my 6-year-old son Leo from soccer practice. He was in the back seat eating a juice pop. As I turned the corner onto our street in Buckhead, the first thing I saw was a Louis Vuitton suitcase, my suitcase. It was lying open on the pristine zoysia grass. My silk blouses, my undergarments, my personal journals were scattered everywhere. The automatic sprinklers hissed to life at that exact moment, soaking everything I owned. Leo asked Mommy, "Why are your clothes wet?" I told him to put his headphones on and watch his iPad. I did not want him to hear what was about to happen. I parked the car. I walked up the stone driveway. I tried the front door. The smart lock pad was dark. My fingerprint did not work. My passcode was rejected. I heard a laugh from above. I looked up. Tyson was standing on the master bedroom balcony. He was holding a glass of scotch. The scotch I bought him for our anniversary. Next to him was Chloe. She is 24 years old and calls herself an Instagram model. She was wearing my white silk robe, the one with my initials embroidered on the pocket. She took a sip from his glass and smirked down at me. Tyson leaned over the railing. He shouted loud enough for the entire cul-de-sac to hear, "You are done, Jada. You have expired. My lawyer is sending the divorce papers tomorrow. I want you off my property. You are trespassing." I looked around. Mrs. Higgins next door was pretending to water her hydrangeas, but she had her phone out. I could see the red recording light. A delivery driver had stopped his truck to watch. The shame burned hotter than the sun. Tyson continued to shout. He said I was a leech. He said I was boring. He said he needed a woman who matched his level of success, not a stay-at-home mom who drove a 10-year-old car. Chloe laughed and wrapped her arms around him. She looked at me like I was the help, like I was trash. They had no idea. They thought Tyson was the provider. They thought King Transport was Tyson's company. They thought this $5 million house belonged to Tyson King. Before I tell you exactly what happened when the black Rolls-Royce pulled up and how I wiped that smirk off Chloe's face, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you have ever been underestimated by a partner who thought they were the prize, hit that like and subscribe button. You are going to want to see this payoff. I stood there on the driveway. The water from the sprinklers was hitting my legs. My shoes were ruined. I looked up at Tyson. I did not scream. I did not beg. I did not ask why. I simply reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I dialed a number I had not used in 5 years. It rang once. A deep voice answered. "This is Sterling." I took a breath. I said, "Protocol Alpha. Execute it now." There was a pause. Then he said, "I am 20 minutes away. Stay put, Mrs. King." I hung up. I walked back to my car. I leaned against the hood and folded my arms. Tyson yelled down again. He said, "Are you deaf?" I said, "Leave." I said, "No." He threw his glass down. It shattered on the driveway near my feet. He said, "Fine. I am calling the police. You want to be humiliated? I will have you escorted off in handcuffs." I checked my watch. 19 minutes left. While I waited, a white Range Rover pulled up. It was my sister-in-law, Becky. She is married to Tyson's brother, Kevin. She has always hated me. She thinks because she comes from old money and I grew up in a small apartment that I am beneath her. She rolled down her window. The air conditioning blasted out. She looked at my wet clothes. She looked at the suitcase on the lawn. She smiled that fake, sweet smile she uses when she is about to be cruel. "Oh, honey," she said. "Kevin told me this might happen. Tyson has just outgrown you, sweetie. It happens. Some people are meant for the penthouse and some are meant for the pavement." She reached into her purse and pulled out a $50 bill. She held it out the window like she was feeding a stray dog. "Here, take this. It should cover an Uber back to whatever ghetto you crawled out of. You can probably stay on your mother's couch, right?" "Oh, wait. Your mother rents a studio, doesn't she?" I looked at the money. I looked at her. I remembered the years I spent balancing the books for her husband's failing warehouse. I remembered the loans I secretly approved through my trust fund so they would not lose their home. She thought Tyson was the rich one. She thought I was the charity case. I did not take the money. I checked my watch. 1 minute left. I said, "Keep it, Becky. You're going to need it for gas money when I freeze your husband's corporate card in about an hour." She laughed. She said, "You are delirious, Jada. The shock must have broken your brain." Then she heard it. We all heard it. The low hum of a 12-cylinder engine. A phantom black Rolls-Royce turned the corner. It moved like a shark through water. The sunlight glinted off the chrome grille. It was so large it took up almost the entire lane. Becky's mouth dropped open. Mrs. Higgins stopped filming. Even Tyson on the balcony went silent. The car stopped right behind my beat-up Toyota. The driver got out and opened the rear door. Mr. Sterling stepped out. He is 6 feet 4 inches tall. He was wearing a bespoke navy Tom Ford suit that cost more than Becky's car. He carried a leather briefcase. He did not look at Becky. He did not look at the neighbors. He walked straight to me. He bowed his head slightly. "Good evening, ma'am. The assets have been secured. The transfer is complete." Tyson came running out of the front door. He was still wearing his suit pants and a dress shirt, but he was barefoot. Chloe trailed behind him, still wearing my robe. Tyson shouted, "Hey, who are you? What is this? Get your car off my driveway." At that moment, a police cruiser pulled up. 2 officers stepped out. Tyson pointed at me. "Officers, arrest her. She is trespassing. I want her removed, and tell this guy to move his car." The police officer looked at Tyson. Then he looked at Mr. Sterling. Mr. Sterling did not raise his voice. He simply opened his briefcase. He pulled out a thick document bound in blue paper. He handed it to the police officer. "Officer, my name is Marcus Sterling. I am the lead counsel for the Legacy Trust. This document is the deed to this property at 450 Highland Avenue. As you can see, the property is owned solely by the trust." The officer flipped through the pages. He looked at the signature at the bottom. "And who is the beneficiary of the trust?" the officer asked. Mr. Sterling pointed at me. "Mrs. Jada King. She is the sole beneficiary and the only person with legal authority to reside here. Mr. Tyson King has no ownership stake. In fact, according to this clause here, Section 4, Paragraph B, his residency was conditional upon his marriage." Mr. Sterling turned to Tyson. His voice was cold as ice. "Mr. King, my client has informed me of your infidelity. Under the morality clause of the prenuptial agreement which you signed 5 years ago, thinking it was just a formality, you have now forfeited your right to reside in any property owned by the trust." Tyson started to sweat. He tried to laugh it off. "This is a joke. Jada doesn't have a trust. Her parents were factory workers. I bought this house. I pay the mortgage." Mr. Sterling handed another paper to the officer. "Actually, Mr. King, you pay rent. You pay rent to a shell company called TK Holdings, which is wholly owned by Mrs. King. You have been living in her house, paying her rent and driving a car leased in her name for 5 years. The officer looked at Tyson. "Sir, is this true?" Tyson looked at me. His eyes were wide. He looked like a trapped animal. "Jada, baby, what is this? Tell them to stop." I stepped forward. I looked him in the eye. I said, "I am not your baby, and you are trespassing." I turned to the officer. "Officer, I would like these intruders removed from my property immediately. I do not feel safe with them here." The officer nodded. He turned to Tyson. "Sir, you need to vacate the premises. Now." "But I live here," Tyson stammered. "My clothes, my wallet." The officer put his hand on his holster. "You can call a civil escort to retrieve your belongings tomorrow. Right now, you need to leave." Chloe tried to sneak back inside. I said, "Excuse me." She froze. I said, "That is my robe. Take it off." Chloe looked around. The neighbors were watching. Becky was watching from her car, her face pale as a ghost. "You can't be serious," Chloe said. I said, "Take it off, or I will add theft to the police report." She looked at Tyson for help. Tyson was too busy staring at the deed in the officer's hand. Slowly, Chloe untied the belt. She was wearing a slip underneath. She took off the silk robe and dropped it on the grass. "Get out," I said. Tyson and Chloe stood on the sidewalk, barefoot, humiliated. Mr. Sterling handed me a set of keys. "The locks have already been recoded digitally, ma'am. Your biometrics are updated." I walked past Tyson. I did not look back. I picked up my suitcase from the wet grass. Mr. Sterling signaled the driver to help me, but I waved him off. I carried it myself. I walked up the stone steps. I placed my finger on the scanner. It beeped green. The door clicked open. I stepped inside the cool air of my home. I turned around and looked at them one last time. Tyson standing in his boxers and dress shirt. Chloe shivering in her slip. Becky speeding away in her Range Rover. I closed the massive oak door. I locked it. Then I turned to Mr. Sterling, who had followed me into the foyer. I said, "Are the accounts ready?" He opened his laptop on the hallway table. "Yes, ma'am. We have access to the corporate accounts of King Transport. You are the majority shareholder of the parent company. We can freeze operations whenever you are ready." I walked over to the mirror in the hallway. I looked at myself. My hair was frizzy from the humidity. My clothes were damp, but my eyes were clear. I said, "Do it. Freeze the fuel cards. Cancel the credit lines. I want every truck in his fleet stranded by midnight." Mr. Sterling typed a command. He hit enter. "Done." I smiled. Now let's see how much he loves his mistress when he can't buy her dinner." This was just the beginning. They thought they stripped me of my dignity, but all they did was strip away my patience. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. My phone started blowing up. It was Tyson calling, then Kevin, then my mother-in-law. I put the phone on the counter. I let it ring. I looked at the family portrait hanging over the fireplace. Me, Tyson, and Leo. We looked so happy. It was all a lie. But the money was very real, and now I was going to use it to burn their world to the ground. I went upstairs to the master bedroom. The bed was unmade. The smell of Chloe's cheap perfume was in the air. I stripped the sheets off the bed and threw them in the trash. I opened the safe in the closet. Tyson thought he was the only one with the combination. He didn't know I manufactured the safe. Inside was his secret stash: cash, a burner phone, and a passport. I took the passport. I took the cash. I sat down on the edge of the mattress. Tomorrow was going to be a busy day. I had a company to liquidate and a family to evict. But for tonight, I was going to sleep like a baby in the house that I owned on the sheets that I paid for. Suddenly, the doorbell rang furiously. Tyson was back. He was pounding on the door, screaming, "Jada, open up. You can't do this. I know you're in there." I walked to the intercom. I pressed the button. I said, "Tyson, go away, or I will release the tax returns." Silence. Complete silence. He knew. He finally realized that I knew everything. The fraud, the embezzlement, the lies. I watched on the camera as he backed away from the door. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. I turned off the monitor. The game had changed, and I held all the cards. The presidential suite at the Four Seasons Hotel in downtown Atlanta smelled of expensive leather and fresh orchids. It was costing $3,000 a night. Tyson King did not care. Did not. He threw his room key on the marble console table and paced across the plush carpet. He was still wearing the dress shirt he had been kicked out in. He looked furious. Chloe was sitting on the beige velvet sofa, checking her makeup in a compact mirror. She was wearing a dress she had ordered from room service just an hour ago. She looked up at Tyson and pouted. "This is ridiculous, Tyson," she whined. "That woman humiliated me. She made me strip in front of the entire neighborhood. My followers are going to think I am weak. You need to fix this. You are the CEO. You are the man." Tyson stopped pacing. He poured himself a drink from the minibar. His hands were shaking slightly. "I know I am the man, Chloe. Shut up for a second." "I am thinking." Kevin and Becky were sitting at the dining table near the window. They were eating club sandwiches and drinking champagne that they had charged to the room number. Kevin wiped mayonnaise off his chin and shook his head. "I told you, bro. I told you she was scheming. You never should have married a girl from the South Side. They are always hungry. They are always looking for a handout." Becky laughed. It was a sharp, cruel sound. "Handout is right. Did you see that suit that lawyer was wearing? That was custom. And the car, a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Jada does not have that kind of money. Her father was a mechanic. Her mother cleaned houses. There is no trust fund. There is no legacy. Tyson downed his drink in one gulp. He slammed the glass down. Exactly. That is what I have been saying. It is a bluff. It has to be a bluff. He walked over to the window and looked out at the city skyline. I built King Transport from nothing. Me. I signed the deals. I shook the hands. I hired the drivers. Jada just sat at home raising Leo and spending my money. She probably found some shady lawyer to forge those documents. She probably used the money I gave her for groceries to pay him. Kevin took a bite of a pickle and chewed loudly. But what about the house Tyson? The police officer said the deed was in a trust. You can't fake a deed in the city database. Becky rolled her eyes. She put her hand on Kevin's arm like she was calming a slow child. Kevin, use your brain. Think about it. Remember when Jada's parents died 4 years ago? Remember how secretive she was about the estate? We all thought they left her dead. But what if they didn't? What if that old mechanic won the lottery back in the day and never told anyone? Tyson turned around slowly. His eyes lit up. The lottery. Becky nodded aggressively. Yes, the lottery. Or maybe a lawsuit settlement. Some working-class windfall. It is the only explanation. She probably has a few $1 million stashed away that she has been hiding from you. That is marital assets, Tyson. If she has been hiding money while you were working your butt off to support her, that is fraud. Tyson started to smile. The fear was leaving his face. The arrogance was returning. You are right. You are absolutely right. She is not a business genius. She is just a lottery winner with a grudge. She thinks she can kick me out of my own house because she got lucky with a scratch-off ticket. Chloe stood up and walked over to Tyson. She ran her hands down his chest. So what are you going to do, baby? Are you going to let her win? Tyson grabbed Chloe by the waist and pulled her close. No, I am going to crush her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his iPhone. He opened the banking app for the family account. She wants to play games with ownership. Let's play. She thinks she has power because she has a piece of paper. But I have the gold card. I have the platinum status. I am the one who pays the bills. He held the phone up so everyone could see the screen. Look at this. Joint checking account. Balance $45,000. Credit card limit $100,000. Primary account holder Tyson King. Authorized user Jada King. He tapped the screen violently. She wants to be independent. Fine. Let's see how independent she is when her card gets declined at the grocery store. He went to the settings menu. He found Jada's name. He pressed the red button that said, Remove Authorized User. A pop-up appeared asking for confirmation. Tyson laughed. Goodbye, Jada. Have fun buying milk for Leo with $0. He confirmed the action. The screen refreshed. Jada's name was gone. He didn't stop there. He went to the savings account. He transferred the entire balance of $80,000 into his personal private account that she could not access. Becky clapped her hands. That is what I am talking about. Cut off the oxygen. Watch her suffocate. She will be begging you to come back by tomorrow morning. Kevin laughed and raised his champagne glass. To the real king of the family. Tyson toasted with them. He felt strong again. He felt like a winner. I'm going to call my real lawyer in the morning. Not that clown she hired. I am going to hire the best divorce attorney in Atlanta. We are going to sue her for fraud. We are going to sue her for emotional distress. And since she kicked me out, I am going to sue for full custody of Leo. Chloe squealed with delight. Yes, and when we get the house back, I want to redo the master bedroom. I hate that beige color she picked. It is so boring. I want pink. And gold. Real gold leaf on the ceiling. Tyson kissed her forehead. You can have whatever you want, baby. You can burn her clothes. You can burn her furniture. Once I starve her out, she will sign anything I put in front of her just to get a meal ticket. Becky leaned back in her chair and sighed contentedly. I never liked her anyway. She always acted so superior just because she read books. Who reads books anymore? She tried to tell me how to raise my kids once. Can you believe that? A woman who came from nothing trying to tell me about etiquette. Kevin nodded. Yeah, she was always stingy too. Remember when I asked for that loan to start my sneaker business? She said no. She said the business plan was not solid. What does she know about business? She is just a housewife. Tyson sat down on the sofa and put his feet up on the coffee table. She is not even a housewife anymore. She is a squatter, and squatters get evicted. He looked at his phone again. He scrolled through the transaction history. Look at this. She spent $200 at Whole Foods yesterday. $200 on groceries. That is my money, my hard-earned money. She has been bleeding me dry for years. He was rewriting history in his head. He truly believed he was the victim. He truly believed that every dollar in that account came from his genius. He had conveniently forgotten that his initial startup capital came from a mysterious angel investor. He had forgotten that every time his company almost went bankrupt, a sudden influx of cash would appear from the JK Ventures group. He thought JK Ventures was just a lucky break. He never asked who JK stood for. He never asked why the terms were so favorable. He just took the money and bought a new watch. Becky poured more champagne. You should cancel the utilities too, Tyson. Turn off the lights. Turn off the water. Make her sit in the dark. Tyson shook his head. No, I can't do that from here. But I can do better. He opened the car lease app. Her car. The Toyota. It is in my name. I pay the lease. He pressed a button marked Report Stolen. Kevin choked on his sandwich, laughing. You are cold, brother. You are ice cold. Tyson smirked. She wants to call the police on me. Fine. Let's see how she likes it when the police pull her over for driving a stolen vehicle. He felt a surge of adrenaline. This was war, and he was winning. He had the money. He had the status. He had the family on his side. Jada was alone. She was just a lonely, bitter woman in a big empty house with no credit cards and a stolen car. Chloe cuddled up next to him. You are so sexy when you take charge. Tyson looked at the door of the hotel suite. Order more room service. Order the lobster. Order the caviar. Put it all on the company card. We are celebrating. He had no idea that at that very moment, in a skyscraper 5 miles away, a team of forensic accountants was staring at a screen that showed a notification. Suspicious activity detected. Authorized user Tyson King has initiated unauthorized transfers. He had no idea that the company card he just told Chloe to use was about to turn into a useless piece of plastic. But for now, in the safety of the presidential suite, Tyson King felt invincible. He thought he had cut off Jada's lifeline. He did not realize he had just cut the rope that was holding him above the abyss. Becky raised her glass again. To Jada, may she enjoy her last night of comfort, because tomorrow she is going back to the hood. They all drank. They all laughed. They were drunk on their own arrogance. They were blind to the tsunami that was already forming on the horizon. The delusion was complete. They actually believed they could win. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime revealing the 45th floor penthouse office of the Sovereign Building. The air here was cool and smelled of white tea and ambition. I stepped out of the private lift and my heels clicked against the polished concrete floor. This was my sanctuary. This was the headquarters of JK Ventures. To the world, JK Ventures was a faceless angel investment firm that had quietly acquired major stakes in logistics technology and real estate over the last 7 years. To Tyson, it was just a lucky break, a stupid company with deep pockets that kept bailing him out whenever he made a mistake. He never asked who the CEO was. He never asked why the board meetings were always done via email. He never noticed that JK stood for Jada King. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the glittering Atlanta skyline. I could see the lights of the highway stretching out like veins of gold. Down there somewhere, Tyson was in a hotel room drinking champagne and celebrating his victory. He thought he had won because he kicked me out of a house I owned and locked a credit card I barely used. My phone buzzed on the glass desk. I picked it up. A notification from the bank flashed on the screen. Alert. Supplementary card ending in 4098 has been deactivated by primary account holder Tyson King. Reason stolen or lost. I stared at the message. Then another one popped up. Alert. Joint savings account ending in 8821. Transfer of $82,000 initiated to external account. balance remaining $0. I let out a laugh. It was a low, dark sound that echoed in the empty office. He really did it. He actually thought $80,000 was my lifeline. He thought that by taking the grocery money, he was cutting off my oxygen. Poor Tyson. He did not understand that he was not the one holding the oxygen tank. He was the one underwater, and I was the one holding the hose. I sat down in my Aeron chair and woke up my workstation. 3 massive curved monitors hummed to life, bathing the room in a soft blue glow. I placed my finger on the biometric scanner. Welcome, CEO Jada King. The system dashboard loaded. It showed the real-time status of my empire. Real estate holdings in Buckhead and Midtown. Tech startups in Silicon Valley. And right there in the middle of the screen, blinking in green, was the portfolio for King Transport. I clicked on it. The screen filled with data. King Transport was what they call a cash-poor business. Tyson liked to buy shiny things. He leased brand-new trucks instead of buying used ones. He rented a warehouse that was 3 times bigger than what he needed, just so he could put a big sign on the highway. He paid himself a salary of $500,000 a year, even when the company was in the red. How did the company survive? Me. Every month, King Transport faced a liquidity crisis, fuel costs, driver payroll, insurance premiums. Tyson would panic. He would come home stressed, yelling at me about how hard he worked. Then magically, JK Ventures would step in. We operated as a factoring company. We bought his invoices. When Amazon or Walmart owed King Transport money for a delivery, they would pay in 90 days. Tyson could not wait 90 days, so JK Ventures would give him the cash immediately minus a small fee. Basically, I was paying his bills so he could pretend to be a big shot. I looked at the accounts receivable ledger. Current status active. Credit line $1.5 million. Utilization 98%. Tyson was maxed out. He was running on fumes and my money. He thought he was a self-made man, but he was just a child living on an allowance. I typed in a command, in. The command was simple. Execute Order 66. No, that was a movie reference, but it felt like that. The actual command was revoke credit facility. I hesitated for 1 second. Just one. I thought about the drivers. Good men and women who were just trying to feed their families. But then I remembered the suitcase on the lawn. I remembered Chloe wearing my robe. I remembered Becky telling me to take an Uber back to the ghetto. They all ate from Tyson's hand, and Tyson ate from mine. If the hand that feeds gets bitten, then the food stops. I hit enter. The screen flashed red. Credit facility suspended. Reason breach of contract. I leaned back and watched the dominoes start to fall. It was not instant. It took the system about 3 minutes to propagate the changes through the banking network. I opened the second monitor. This was the fleet management system. I had back-end access because JK Ventures paid for the GPS tracking software. I saw the map of the United States. 200 little green dots were moving across the highways. Each dot was a King Transport 18-wheeler carrying freight for major clients. I zoomed in on a dot near Dallas, Texas. Truck number 405, driver name Miller, fuel level low. I watched the dot pull off the highway into a pilot-flying J truck stop. I switched to the financial feed. I could see the transaction attempts in real time. Attempt? Fuel purchase. $300. Card ending in 5521. Processing. Declined. Reason insufficient funds. I watched the dot sit there for a moment, then another attempt. Attempt. Fuel purchase. $50. Declined. Reason merchant blocked. I could imagine the scene. The driver standing at the pump, confused. He probably tried wiping the card on his pants. He probably walked inside to talk to the cashier. Then I saw another dot in Chicago. Truck 212. Attempt, repair service, tire replacement, $800, declined. Within 10 minutes, the map started to light up with error messages. I opened the internal communication logs. I could read the messages the drivers were sending to dispatch. Dispatch, this is Unit 405. My fuel card is not working. I am stuck in Dallas with a load of frozen seafood. Please advise. Dispatch, this is Unit 118. Card declined at the toll booth. Police are asking me to move, but I can't pay. What is going on? Dispatch, call me now. The mechanic says the account is frozen. He won't release the truck. I looked at the time. It was 8:30 p.m. Tyson would be halfway through his lobster dinner by now. He probably had his phone on silent so he could focus on Chloe. But his dispatch team was definitely not on silent. I opened the window for the King Transport main bank account, the operating account, balance $12,000. That was not enough to cover the fuel bill for a single night. Usually, at this time of night, an automatic transfer from JK Ventures would hit the account to cover the next day's operations. I canceled the scheduled transfer. Status canceled by administrator. The company was now officially insolvent. I decided to twist the knife a little deeper. I accessed the email server. I was not just an investor. I was the admin. I had set up his email system 5 years ago because he was too cheap to hire an IT guy. He never changed the master password. I composed an email. I set the sender as accounts payable. I sent it to the entire list of vendors, fuel suppliers, insurance brokers, leasing agents, subject urgent notice of financial restructuring. Body, dear partners, please be advised that King Transport is currently undergoing a liquidity review. All automatic payments are suspended effective immediately. Please do not extend further credit until you receive written authorization from the new majority shareholder. I hit send. Now it was not just a computer glitch. Now it was a panic. I stood up and poured myself a glass of sparkling water. I did not drink alcohol when I was working. And this was work. This was the most important work of my life. I walked back to the window. My phone started to buzz again. But this time it was not a notification. It was a call. It was not Tyson. He was still too arrogant to call me. It was Jerry, the night shift dispatch manager. Jerry was a good man. He had come to Leo's birthday parties. I picked up. "Hello, Jerry." "Mrs. King, thank God." Jerry's voice was shaking. "I can't get a hold of Tyson. I have called him 20 times. It is a disaster down here." I kept my voice calm. "What is wrong, Jerry?" "Everything. The fuel cards are dead. The toll passes are revoked. I have 40 drivers stranded on the side of the road, and I just got an email from the leasing company saying they are remotely disabling the ignitions on the new Volvos because of a payment default. Jada, what is happening?" I felt a pang of guilt for Jerry. He was collateral damage. "Jerry, listen to me. Send a message to all drivers. Tell them to pull over safely. Tell them to use their personal cards for food and hotel if they can and keep the receipts. But who is going to reimburse them, Jada?" "Tyson. The company account is showing 0. I paused. "I will reimburse them, Jerry. Personally. But not tonight. Tonight, you need to tell them that Tyson King has failed to secure the funding. Tell them the CEO is unreachable." Jerry was silent for a moment. "You did this, didn't you?" He knew I was the one who did the books. He knew I was the one who fixed things. I did not answer his question directly. "Jerry, go home to your wife. Turn off the lights in the dispatch office. There is nothing you can do tonight. King Transport is dead in the water." I hung up. I looked back at the screen. The map was covered in red warning icons. It looked like a Christmas tree of failure. Then finally, the call I was waiting for came through. "Tyson King." I let it ring. 1, 2, 3. I wanted him to sweat. I wanted him to look at the declined card receipt on his dinner table. I wanted him to see the panic in the waiter's eyes. I answered on the 5th ring. "Hello, Tyson. How is the lobster?" "Jada, what did you do?" He was screaming. He sounded like a maniac. There was background noise, dishes clattering, Chloe asking what was wrong. "My card is declined. The company card, the platinum card. It says merchant blocked." I leaned back in my chair and put my feet on the desk. "Oh, that is strange. Maybe you should check the authorized user settings." "Oh, wait. You are the authorized user. I am the owner. What are you talking about? Fix this, Jada. I have clients calling me. Amazon just called my personal cell. They said their shipment is stuck in Tennessee. Do you know how much money I am losing every minute?" I checked the monitor. "According to my calculations, you are losing about $4,000 a minute in penalties alone. You crazy witch. Turn it back on. I command you." "You command me?" I asked. My voice was soft but deadly. "You command the woman you threw out on the street? You command the woman whose clothes you soaked in water?" "Jada, please." His voice cracked. He switched from anger to begging in a second. This is business. Don't mix personal life with business. You are destroying the company. Our company. I laughed. Correction. Tyson, it was never our company. It was my capital and your ego. And right now your ego is writing checks that my capital is no longer cashing. I have the account numbers. Jada, I will call the bank myself. Go ahead, I said. Call them. Ask for the JK Ventures representative. Ask them why the credit facility was pulled. There was a silence on the line. I could hear his heavy breathing. JK Ventures, he whispered. Yes, Tyson. JK. Jada King. Who did you think it was, Santa Claus? I could hear the realization crashing down on him. The years of easy loans, the smooth cash flow, the magically approved leases. It was never his brilliance. It was me. Always me. You own the debt. I own the debt. I own the invoices. I own the trucks. I own the fuel you are trying to buy. I own the building your office is in. I basically own the air you breathe right now, Tyson. Jada, baby, wait. Let's talk. I can come over. Where are you? I am in the one place you never bothered to visit. I am at work. I hung up the phone. I turned off the ringer. I watched the screen for a few more minutes. The chaos was spreading. The logistics industry is a small world. By tomorrow morning, everyone would know that King Transport had collapsed. The vultures would start circling, but they would not be able to pick the carcass, because I had already bought the carcass. I closed the laptop. I stood up and walked to the private bathroom in my office. I had a shower there. I had a change of clothes, a crisp white power suit that I kept for board meetings. I stripped off my damp jeans and the ruined t-shirt. I stepped into the hot shower. I washed away the smell of the sprinkler water. I washed away the feeling of being a victim. When I stepped out, I wrapped myself in a towel. I looked in the mirror. The woman staring back at me was not a housewife. She was not a doormat. She was a shark. I dressed slowly. I put on the white suit. I put on my diamond stud earrings. I applied a layer of red lipstick. I was ready for war. But first, I needed to sleep. I walked over to the leather sofa in the lounge area. I pulled a cashmere blanket over me. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., I was going to walk into the King Transport offices, not as the wife bringing lunch, but as the owner bringing an eviction notice. I closed my eyes. The city lights danced on my eyelids. Tyson was probably trying to call Kevin right now. He was probably trying to get a loan from his brother. But Kevin was broke. Becky was broke. They were all broke. The only currency they had left was audacity, and audacity does not buy diesel fuel. For the first time in 10 years, I slept without worrying about the future, because for the first time in 10 years, I was the one writing it. The Piedmont Driving Club is the kind of place where the air conditioning smells like old money and judgment. It is where the elite of Atlanta go to congratulate themselves for being rich. And tonight, it was where my sister-in-law Becky was desperate to prove she belonged. She had spent 6 months planning the children's future gala. It was her big ticket into the inner circle of high society wives. She needed everything to be perfect. She needed the flowers to be white orchids imported from Holland. She needed the champagne to be vintage Dom Perignon. But mostly, she needed a check. She was counting on Tyson to write that check. She had promised the board that her brother-in-law, the CEO of King Transport, was going to donate $50,000 tonight. She had bragged about it to every woman in the room. She had built her entire reputation on the King family money. The money she did not know was actually mine. I arrived 10 minutes late. I wanted them to be settled. I wanted the room to be full. I handed my keys to the valet. He looked at my car. It was not the Toyota Camry I was driving yesterday. It was a brand new Aston Martin DB11 in magnetic silver. I had picked it up from the dealership that morning, using the corporate account for JK Ventures. It was a company car, and since I was the company, I decided I needed an upgrade. I walked up the grand staircase. I was wearing an emerald green silk gown that fit like a second skin. It had a high slit up the thigh and a back that plunged dangerously low. I wore the diamond earrings my grandmother left me, the real ones, not the cubic zirconia Tyson bought me for my birthday last year. The double doors swung open. The room was buzzing with the sound of crystal glasses clinking and polite laughter, a sea of tuxedos and designer dresses. When I stepped onto the carpet, the room did not go silent immediately, but heads started to turn. One by one, people stopped talking. They looked at the dress. They looked at the face. They looked at the confidence. I saw Becky first. She was standing near the bar holding court with 3 women who looked like they were carved out of ice and Botox. Becky was wearing a pink dress that looked a little too much like a prom queen outfit. When she saw me, her smile dropped. She excused herself and marched over to me. Her heels clicked angrily on the hardwood floor. "Jada," she hissed. "What are you doing here? This is a private event. Tickets were $500 a plate. I know you cannot afford that. Did you sneak in through the kitchen?" I looked at her. I didn't look angry. I looked bored. "Hello, Becky. Lovely dress. It looks very similar to the one the bridesmaids wore at my cousin's wedding." Her face flushed pink. "Get out, Jada. I mean it. Security is right outside. I am not going to let you ruin my big night with your drama. Tyson is here with Chloe. They are sitting at the head table. If you go over there and cause a scene, I will have you arrested." I smiled. "I am not here to cause a scene, Becky. I am here to eat dinner." I started to walk past her, but she grabbed my arm. "You don't have a seat. The seating chart is finalized." Just then, Mrs. Vanderwoodson, the chairwoman of the charity, walked up. She is the queen bee of Atlanta society. A woman Becky had been trying to impress for 5 years. Mrs. Vanderwoodson did not look at Becky. She looked straight at me. She extended her hand. "Ms. King, you made it. We were worried you wouldn't be able to attend on such short notice." Becky looked confused. "Vanderwoodson, you know Jada. She is Tyson's ex-wife, well, soon-to-be ex. She shouldn't be here." The older woman frowned at Becky. "Becky, dear, don't be rude. Ms. King is not just a guest. Her company, JK Ventures, is the diamond sponsor for the evening. They wired the donation this afternoon. She effectively paid for this entire dinner." Becky's mouth fell open. She looked like a fish gasping for air. Diamond sponsor. "But that is $100,000. Mrs. Vanderwoodson nodded. "Yes. And we are so graspful. Come, Ms. King, we have placed you at the head table, right next to your family." I followed the chairwoman. I could feel Becky trailing behind me like a confused puppy. We approached table 1. It was the best table in the house, center stage. Tyson was sitting there. He looked terrible. He was wearing a tuxedo, but his tie was crooked. He was sweating. He was checking his phone under the table, probably trying to figure out why his credit cards were still not working. Next to him was Chloe. She was wearing a red dress that was way too short for a gala. It was tight and flashy. She looked like she was going to a nightclub, not a charity event. She was bored scrolling through Instagram. When Tyson saw me, he choked on his water. He coughed violently. Chloe looked up and her eyes went wide. Mrs. Vanderwoodson pulled out the chair directly across from them. "Here you go, Ms. King. Please enjoy the evening." I sat down. I placed my clutch on the table. I unfolded my napkin and placed it on my lap. "Hello, Tyson. Hello, Chloe." Tyson whispered furiously across the table. "What is this, Jada? Are you stalking me? How did you get in here?" I picked up my menu. "I was invited, Tyson, just like you. Although I suspect my contribution to the evening was a little more substantial than yours." Chloe rolled her eyes. "Please. You probably used the last of your alimony money to buy a ticket just to spy on us. It is pathetic, really. Move on, Grandma." I looked at Chloe. "You have spinach in your teeth, sweetie." She immediately covered her mouth and grabbed her phone to check. Becky tapped on the microphone glass at the podium. The room went quiet. It was time for the speeches. Becky looked nervous. She was shaking. She looked at me, then she looked at Tyson. She took a deep breath. "Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are here to support the children. And I want to give a special thank you to my family, specifically my brother-in-law, Mr. Tyson King, CEO of King Transport." Applause rippled through the room. Tyson puffed out his chest. He stood up and waved. He loved the attention. He loved being the big man. Becky continued, Tyson has generously pledged $50,000 to the cause tonight. He is a pillar of this community. The applause got louder. Tyson smiled, but I saw the panic in his eyes. He knew he didn't have $50,000. He barely had $50. He was banking on the fact that pledges are usually paid later by invoice. He thought he had 30 days to figure it out. But he was wrong. The waiter approached our table with a bottle of crystal champagne. Mr. King, for the platinum donors, we require the credit card on file immediately to process the pledge and the bottle service. It is club policy. Tyson froze. Oh, right. Can't you just bill the office? The waiter shook his head. I'm afraid not, sir. The system requires a physical card for amounts over $10,000. Tyson laughed nervously. He looked around. People were watching. The people at the next table were listening. Sure, no problem. He reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out his wallet. He pulled out the black Amex, the one he thought was his. He handed it to the waiter. Here you go. Put the bottle and the donation on this. The waiter took the card. He pulled out a handheld card reader from his apron. He inserted the chip. We all watched. Tyson held his breath. Becky was watching from the podium, gripping the wood so hard her knuckles were white. Beep. The machine made a low, nasty sound. The waiter frowned. He pulled the card out and wiped it on his sleeve. He tried again. Beep. Declined. The waiter looked at the screen. I am sorry, Mr. King. The card has been declined. It says, do not honor. Tyson's face turned bright red. That is impossible. That is a black card. Run it again. I tried, sir. Twice. Do you have another card? Tyson fumbled in his wallet. He pulled out a Visa. Try this one. The waiter inserted it. Beep. Declined. A hush fell over the room. The people at the next table stopped eating. They were staring. In this world, having a card declined was worse than having a criminal record. It was the ultimate sin. Tyson was sweating profusely now. Drops of sweat were running down his forehead. There must be a mistake with the bank. Their system must be down. Chloe looked embarrassed. She tried to slide down in her chair. Tyson, just pay him. You are making a scene. I can't pay him if the machine is broken. Chloe Tyson snapped at her. The waiter looked uncomfortable. Sir, the machine is working fine. I just ran a card for the table next to you. Becky rushed over from the podium. She looked like she was about to cry. Tyson, what is going on? Just give him the corporate card. Tyson looked at Becky. His eyes were pleading. I don't have it on me. Becky, can you cover it? I will wire you the money tomorrow. Becky stepped back. Me? I don't have $50,000, Tyson. You are the CEO. You are the rich one. The silence in the room was deafening. The whispers started. I thought he was successful. Maybe the rumors are true. King Transport is in trouble. I watched them squirm. I took a sip of my water. It was delicious. Tyson looked at me. He looked desperate. He looked like he wanted to ask for help, but his pride wouldn't let him. It was time. I stood up slowly. The chair scraped against the floor. All eyes turned to me. I opened my clutch. I pulled out a card. It was heavy. It was made of titanium. It was the Centurion card from JK Ventures, the real black card. I held it out to the waiter between two fingers. Put it on mine. The waiter looked relieved. He took the card. Thank you, Miss King. For the champagne and the donation. I looked at Tyson. I looked at his cheap tuxedo. I looked at Chloe's cheap dress. I looked at Becky's terrified face. Yes, I said. My voice was clear and carried through the silent room. Pay for the champagne, pay for the donation, and add a 20% tip for yourself. I paused for effect. And cover Mr. King's dinner as well. Consider it charity for the homeless. He seems to be having a hard time getting back on his feet. The room gasped. Someone actually gasped audibly. Tyson looked like he had been slapped. Becky covered her mouth with her hand. The waiter ran my card. Ching? Approved. He handed it back to me with a bow. Thank you, Miss King. I put the card back in my clutch. I didn't sit back down. I looked at Tyson one last time. Enjoy the champagne, Tyson. It is the last expensive thing you will ever taste. I turned around and walked out. I could feel their eyes burning into my back, but I didn't care. I walked through the double doors, past the stunned security guards, and down the grand staircase. I could hear the whispers exploding behind me. The reputation of the King family was shattered in 3 minutes. Becky would never recover socially. Tyson was exposed as a fraud. The valet brought my Aston Martin around. He opened the door for me. "Have a good night, Miss King." I smiled at him. "Oh, I will. I definitely will." As I drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw Tyson running out of the club. He was chasing after my car. He was waving his arms. He looked small. He looked pathetic. I pressed the accelerator. The engine roared. The dinner party was over, but the main course was just getting started. Tomorrow was the deposition, and I had a few more surprises on the menu. The morning after the gala, Tyson woke up in a Motel 6. He had been kicked out of the Four Seasons because his credit card declined for the second night in a row. He was hungover. He was furious. And he was desperate. He did not call me. He did not call his brother. He called the number on a billboard he saw on the highway. Barry the Bulldog Cohen. Divorce. DUI. Personal injury. No fee unless you win. I know this because I later read the deposition where Barry admitted everything. Tyson walked into that office, which smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap cologne, and he laid it all out, or at least his version of it. He told Barry that I was a fraud, that I had stolen his company, that I was hiding assets. Barry was a short man with a stain on his tie. He listened to Tyson. He looked at the court documents Sterling had served. He shook his head. "Mr. King, let me be honest with you. You are screwed on the money. The trust is ironclad. The company structure is bulletproof. Whoever set this up knew exactly what they were doing. You signed away your rights 5 years ago." Tyson slammed his fist on the desk. "So that is it. I just lose everything. I built that life." Barry leaned forward. A nasty smile crept across his face. "I said you are screwed on the money. I did not say you cannot win. In a divorce war, when you cannot attack the wallet, you attack the character. You say this woman is unstable. You say she is dangerous." Tyson looked confused. "But she is not unstable. She is boring. She reads books and drinks tea." Barry laughed. "It does not matter what she is. It matters what a judge thinks she is. We file for full custody of your son. We claim immediate danger. We say she is an unfit mother. We say she has a substance abuse problem." Tyson hesitated. "She barely drinks." Barry waved his hand dismissively. "Does she take sleeping pills? Does she take anxiety medication? Does she have a glass of wine at dinner? We take a sliver of truth and we build a mountain of lies. If we threaten to take the kid, she will panic. Mothers always panic. She will write you a check for $10 million just to make the custody case go away. It is called leverage." I can only imagine the look on Tyson's face, the realization that he could hurt me in the one place I was vulnerable. My son, Leo. He smiled. "Do it. File the papers." But they needed proof. They needed something visual, something that would sway the court of public opinion before we even stepped inside a courtroom. That is where Chloe came in. Chloe had 200,000 followers on Instagram. She thought she was a celebrity. She was angry that I had embarrassed her at the gala. She wanted blood. Becky met them at the lawyer's office. She brought the ammunition. "Do you remember 3 years ago," Becky asked, "when Jada had that terrible flu? She was passed out on the couch surrounded by tissues and medicine bottles." Tyson nodded. "Yeah, I remember. I went golfing that weekend." Becky pulled out her phone. "I took a picture. I was going to send it to Mom to show her how lazy Jada was being while you were working, but I kept it. Look." She showed them the photo. In the picture, I looked terrible. My hair was messy. I was asleep on the sofa with my mouth open. On the coffee table, there were bottles of NyQuil and empty water bottles. Barry looked at the photo. "Perfect. Crop out the water bottles. Keep the NyQuil. It looks like liquor if you squint. Or better yet, imply it is a cocktail of opioids." Chloe grabbed the phone. "I can fix this. I have an editing app. I can make her skin look gray. I can add some grain. I will make her look like a junkie." And that is exactly what they did. While I was sitting in my office reviewing the liquidation strategy for King Transport, my phone started to vibrate. It did not stop. It was like a swarm of angry bees. I picked it up. My notifications were exploding. It was Instagram. I had been tagged in a post. I opened it. There was the photo. My face looked gaunt. The lighting was manipulated to make the living room look dark and dirty. The caption read, "The truth finally comes out. Everyone thinks Jada King is this perfect businesswoman. But this is what my poor boyfriend Tyson has been dealing with for years. Coming home to find his wife passed out from pills and alcohol while their son cries in the other room. We tried to get her help. We tried to save her, but instead she stole his company and kicked him out. Please pray for Tyson and his son Leo as we fight to get him away from this toxic environment. Hashtag save Leo. Hashtag mental health awareness. Hashtag the real story." My heart stopped. I read the comments. Oh my God, I had no idea. Poor Tyson. She looks wasted. That poor child. This is why you can't trust these quiet ones. She needs rehab, not a company. They were destroying me. They were taking my reputation, my dignity, and painting me as a monster. But the worst was yet to come. An hour later, the receptionist at JK Ventures called my line. "Mrs. King, there is a process server here. He says it is urgent. I told her to send him up." A man in a cheap suit walked in. He did not look me in the eye. He handed me a thick envelope. "You have been served, ma'am." I opened the envelope. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so hot it felt like lava in my veins. Emergency ex parte motion for full custody. Plaintiff Tyson King. Defendant Jada King. I scanned the legal jargon. The plaintiff alleges that the defendant is suffering from severe substance abuse issues and erratic behavior. The plaintiff claims the defendant has created an unsafe environment for the minor child Leo King. The plaintiff requests immediate temporary sole custody and a restraining order preventing the defendant from unsupervised contact with the child. Attached to the motion was the edited photo and a sworn affidavit from Becky stating that she had witnessed me drinking heavily at family events. An affidavit from Chloe stating that I had threatened her with violence. They were not just trying to get money, they were trying to take Leo. They crossed the line. In business there are rules. You sue, you settle, you compete, but you never touch the children. Tyson had broken the only rule that mattered. I picked up the phone and called Sterling. "Did you see the post?" I asked. My voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. "Yes, ma'am. We are already drafting a defamation suit against Ms. Chloe and Mr. Tyson King. We will have that post taken down in an hour." "No," I said. "Leave it up." Sterling paused. "Leave it up, ma'am. It is damaging your reputation. Let them dig the hole, Sterling. Let them think they are winning. I want every single person who likes that post to see what happens next. I want the world to see the lie before I show them the truth." I looked at the custody papers again. "Sterling, what about this motion?" He sighed. "It is a standard dirty tactic, ma'am. They want to scare you. They want you to call Tyson and offer him a settlement to drop the custody claim. They think you are a traditional mother who will do anything to avoid a court battle over her child." "They are right," I said. "I will do anything." I stood up and walked to the window. I looked down at the city. But they forgot one thing, Sterling. They forgot that I track everything. They forgot about the cameras. Sterling's voice brightened. "The nanny cams, the security cams, the dashboard cams. I have footage of every minute of my life for the past 5 years. I have footage of Tyson coming home drunk at 3 a.m. I have footage of Becky stealing wine from my cellar. I have footage of me helping Leo with his homework every single night while Tyson was out with Chloe." I clenched my fist. They want to prove I am an unfit mother. "Fine, let's go to court. But tell the judge to clear his schedule, because I am not just going to defend myself. I am going to put Tyson King on trial for the entire world to see. Prepare the evidence, Sterling, and hire a private investigator to find out where Chloe gets her editing apps. I have a feeling she has a history of lying online." I hung up. I looked at the photo on my screen one last time. The lie was ugly, but the truth was going to be beautiful. Tyson thought he had checkmated me. He thought that by threatening to take my son, he would break me. He didn't know that he had just woken up a beast that no amount of money could silence. I picked up my purse. I was going to pick up Leo from school, and if Tyson or his process servers tried to stop me, they were going to need more than a piece of paper. They were going to need an army. Because a mother fighting for her child is the most dangerous creature on earth, and a billionaire mother fighting for her child. That is an extinction event. The deposition room in the downtown law offices of Cohen and Associates was freezing cold. It smelled of stale coffee and intimidation. They put me in the chair facing the window so the sun would be in my eyes. It was a cheap tactic, a psychological trick designed to make me feel exposed and small. I sat perfectly still. My hands were folded on the mahogany table. I was wearing a navy blue power suit and my hair was pulled back in a tight bun. Next to me sat Mr. Sterling. He had not said a word since we entered the room. He just opened his laptop and placed a small black projector on the end of the table. Across from me was the circus. Tyson was leaning back in his chair, spinning a pen between his fingers. He looked confident. He looked like a man who thought he had already won. Next to him was Barry the Bulldog Cohen, his sleazy lawyer who had mustard on his tie. In the corner, sitting on a folding chair, was Becky. She was there as a witness to my alleged alcoholism. And next to her was Kevin, looking nervous and sweating through his shirt. Even Chloe was there. She was not supposed to be in the room, but Tyson insisted she stay for moral support. She was chewing gum and scrolling on her phone. The court reporter typed a few keys on her machine. The room went silent. Barry cleared his throat. He turned on a small video camera pointed at my face. "We are on the record. This is the deposition of Mrs. Jada King in the matter of King versus King regarding custody of the minor child Leo King." Barry leaned forward. He didn't look at his notes. He looked straight at me with a sneer. "Mrs. King, let us cut to the chase. You claim to be the owner of King Transport. You claim to own the marital home. You claim to have significant assets." He paused for effect. "But up until 3 days ago, you were a housewife. You had no income. You had no job. You drove a 10-year-old car. So my question is simple. Where did the money come from, Jada?" I did not blink. I did not answer. Barry slammed his hand on the table. "Answer the question, Mrs. King. Did you steal it? Did you embezzle it from your husband's company? Or are you involved in something more illicit? Perhaps drugs, perhaps money laundering? Is that why you are so secretive? Is that why you pass out on the couch from exhaustion because you are running a criminal enterprise at night?" Tyson chuckled. He whispered something to Chloe and she giggled. Barry continued his attack. "We have a witness here, your sister-in-law Becky, who will testify that you have no financial literacy. She will testify that you refused to loan family members money because you said you didn't have any. So which is it, Jada? Are you a liar who hid millions from her husband, or are you a criminal who stole it?" He pointed a finger at my face. "And let me remind you, if you cannot prove the legitimate source of these funds, we will petition the court to freeze all your assets immediately. We will take the house back. We will take the company back. And we will take your son because a criminal cannot raise a child." Tyson spoke up. His voice was smug. "Just tell the truth, Jada. Tell them you found a sugar daddy. Tell them you stole my cash stash. Just admit it, and maybe I will let you see Leo on weekends." I looked at Tyson. I looked at the man I had shared a bed with for 7 years. I looked at the father of my child, and I felt nothing. The love had died a long time ago. The respect had died yesterday. Now all that was left was pity. I turned to Mr. Sterling. I nodded once. Mr. Sterling did not stand up. He simply pressed a button on his laptop. The small projector on the table hummed to life. A beam of light cut through the room and hit the blank white wall behind Tyson. "Exhibit A, Mr. A," Sterling said. His voice was deep and calm. It filled the room like thunder. An image appeared on the wall. It was a PDF document. It was blown up so everyone could read the fine print. It was a promissory note, dated 3 years ago. The title read, "Commercial Loan Agreement, Lender JK Ventures, Borrower King Transport, Amount $500,000, Interest rate 15%. At the bottom of the page was a signature, a big, bold scrawl that everyone in the room recognized. Tyson King. The room went deadly silent. Tyson stopped spinning his pen. He squinted at the screen. "What is this?" he asked. "This is just a loan I took to expand the fleet. What does this prove?" Mr. Sterling pressed the next key. The slide changed. It highlighted a paragraph in yellow. Clause 4, Section C, Default and Ownership Transfer. In the event that the borrower fails to make 3 consecutive payments or engages in financial malfeasance, the lender reserves the right to immediately seize all collateral assets, including but not limited to the company inventory, the intellectual property, and the personal guarantees of the CEO. Mr. Sterling spoke again. Mr. King, you have missed not 3 but 12 payments in the last year. You survived only because the lender chose to be lenient. Tyson laughed nervously. So what? JK Ventures is some big, faceless corporation. They are not here. This is a deposition about Jada. Mr. Sterling pressed another key. The next slide showed the articles of incorporation for JK Ventures. It showed the state of Georgia's seal. It showed the date of formation. And right there on the line labeled sole proprietor and managing member was a name. Jada Marie King. Tyson stood up. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. No, that is fake. That is a lie. He looked at me. His eyes were wide with shock. You are JK Ventures. I finally spoke. My voice was cool and crisp. Sit down, Tyson. We are just getting started. I leaned into the microphone. You asked where the money came from, Barry. It came from my software patent I sold 10 years ago. I reinvested it. I built a portfolio, and for the last 3 years, I have been the one keeping King Transport alive. Every time Tyson needed a bailout, he borrowed from me. Every time he needed to make payroll, he borrowed from me. He didn't know it was me. He just signed the papers because he was desperate and he didn't read the fine print. Barry looked at the screen. He looked at his client. He looked at the paperwork. He was starting to sweat. Mrs. King, if this is true, why did you not disclose this during the marriage? Because I wanted him to be a man, I said. I wanted him to succeed on his own. I was the safety net. But I never thought he would try to cut the net down while he was standing on it. Mr. Sterling interrupted. Moving on to Exhibit B, the witness credibility. He looked at Becky. She was shrinking in her chair. Mrs. Becky King, you submitted a sworn affidavit stating that Mrs. Jada King is financially irresponsible and morally bankrupt. Is that correct? Becky nodded. Her voice was a squeak. Yes, that is what I saw. Mr. Sterling pressed play. A video file opened on the screen. It was black and white footage, grainy but high definition. The timestamp in the corner said 2 a.m. February 14th, Valentine's Day. The location was the main warehouse of King Transport. We watched as a side door opened. 2 figures walked in. One was holding a flashlight. The other was pushing a hand truck. They walked to the secure cage where the high-value electronics were stored. The figure with the flashlight turned around. The light hit his face. It was Kevin. The figure with the hand truck took off her hood. It was Becky. On the screen, we watched them cut the padlock with bolt cutters. We watched them load 5 boxes of iPhones and 3 boxes of gaming consoles onto the hand truck. We watched them high-five each other. Then we watched them roll the stolen goods out the side door and load them into Becky's minivan. The video ended. The screen went black. Kevin had his head in his hands. He was shaking. Becky was pale. She looked like she was going to vomit. Mr. Sterling spoke. That inventory was valued at $50,000. It was reported missing the next day. Tyson fired the night watchman because he thought he stole it. An innocent man lost his job because your brother and sister-in-law were running a theft ring out of your warehouse. Tyson turned on Kevin. He looked furious. You stole from me. You stole from the family. Kevin looked up. He was crying. We needed the money, Tyson. You were driving a G-Wagon and we couldn't pay our mortgage. You wouldn't give us a raise. Silence fell over the room again. The sound of Kevin's sobbing was the only noise. Barry the lawyer was trying to pack up his briefcase. I think we are done here, he said. This is becoming a criminal matter. Sit down, Barry, I said. We have one more slide. And this one is my favorite. Exhibit C, Mr. Sterling said. The screen lit up one last time. This was a spreadsheet. It was a forensic accounting report of the corporate expense account. It highlighted a series of transactions from last month. Date, May 12th. Vendor, Hermes Atlanta. Item, Birkin 30, Togo's leather. Cost, $18,000. Payment method, King Transport Corporate Operating Account. Next to the transaction was a photo. It was a screenshot from Instagram. It was Chloe. She was posing in front of a mirror. On her arm was a bright orange Birkin bag. The caption read, "He treats me like a queen. #blessed #Birkin." Mr. Sterling looked at Tyson. "Mr. King, according to IRS Tax Code Section 162, using corporate funds for personal gifts is classified as embezzlement. It is tax fraud. It is a felony." He looked at Chloe. "And Ms. Chloe receiving stolen property, knowing it was purchased with misappropriated funds, makes you an accessory to the crime." Chloe dropped her phone. It hit the floor with a crack. She looked at Tyson. "You said you bought it with your bonus. You said it was your money." Tyson was hyperventilating. He was pulling at his collar. It was a marketing expense. "She is a brand ambassador," I laughed. It was a cold, dry laugh. "A brand ambassador for a trucking company." "Tyson, does she model for the forklifts?" I stood up. I walked over to the other side of the table. I looked down at them. They were broken. In 20 minutes, I had dismantled their entire reality. "Tyson, you don't have a company. You have a massive debt to me, Becky and Kevin. You don't have a moral high ground. You have a grand larceny charge waiting for you. And Chloe, you don't have a rich boyfriend. You have a man who is about to be indicted for tax fraud." I turned to the court reporter. "Are you getting all of this?" She nodded, her eyes wide. "Good," I said. I looked at Barry the lawyer. "Now, Mr. Cohen, about that custody motion. Do you still think I am the unfit parent? Do you still think I am the one who is a danger to my son? Or is the real danger the father who steals from his own company and the aunt and uncle who rob warehouses at night?" Barry swallowed hard. He looked at Tyson. He looked at the evidence. He closed his folder. "We withdraw the motion," he whispered. "What?" Tyson screamed. "You can't withdraw. She is bluffing." Barry looked at Tyson with disgust. "She is not bluffing, you idiot. She has you on video. She has the receipts. If we go to a judge with this, you won't just lose custody. You will go to prison. We are done." Barry stood up and walked out of the room. He didn't even look back. Tyson sat there alone. His team was gone. His arrogance was gone. Chloe stood up. She grabbed her fake Chanel purse. "I am leaving," she said. "I am not going to jail for a purse. Don't call me Tyson." She ran out the door. Becky and Kevin followed her, keeping their heads down, trying to avoid my gaze. It was just me and Tyson left in the room, and Mr. Sterling. Tyson looked up at me. There were tears in his eyes, but they were not tears of remorse. They were tears of defeat. "Jada, please. We can fix this. I didn't know." I picked up my purse. "You didn't know because you never looked Tyson. You never looked at me. You never looked at the books. You only looked in the mirror." I walked to the door. Mr. Sterling packed up the projector. "See you in court, Tyson," I said. I walked out into the hallway. The air was warmer out here. I took a deep breath. I checked my watch. The whole deposition had taken 45 minutes. I had my son. I had my company. And soon I would have my freedom. Mr. Sterling walked beside me. "That went well, ma'am," he said. I smiled. "Send the video of the warehouse theft to the District Attorney Sterling, and send the tax fraud evidence to the IRS. "But ma'am," Sterling said, "that will put your brother-in-law and your husband in prison." I stopped at the elevator. I pressed the down button. "They made their choices, Sterling. Now they have to pay the invoice." The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside. The doors closed on my old life, and I started my ascent to the top. The elevator doors were about to close, but Mr. Sterling held them open with his hand. He looked at me with a small, knowing smile. He knew I wanted to see this. He knew that the only thing more satisfying than defeating your enemies is watching them destroy each other. And right on cue, the explosion happened. It started with a scream from inside the conference room. It was not a scream of fear. It was a scream of accusation. Becky came storming out into the hallway. Her face was blotchy and red. Her expensive blowout hair was a mess. She looked at me standing in the elevator, and for a split second I saw hope in her eyes. She thought she could appeal to my sympathy. She thought the old Jada, the doormat Jada, was still in there somewhere. She ran towards the elevator doors. She ignored Tyson, who was sitting with his head in his hands. She ignored her husband, Kevin, who was trying to pack up the papers they had brought to destroy me. "Jada, wait!" Becky screamed. She grabbed the edge of the elevator door, preventing it from closing. Her nails were digging into the metal. You have to listen to me. I had nothing to do with that warehouse theft. It was all Kevin. He forced me to go. He said he needed help moving some boxes. I didn't know they were stolen. I thought it was just surplus inventory. You know how Kevin is. He is always running schemes. I am just a victim here, Jada. I am a mother. You can't send a mother to prison. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had spent the last 5 years making fun of my clothes and my background. The woman who had just signed an affidavit calling me a drunk. Kevin heard her. He came charging out of the room. He looked sweaty and desperate. His shirt was untucked. He looked like a cornered rat. "What did you say, Becky?" Kevin yelled. His voice cracked. He pushed past her and looked at me. "Don't listen to her, Jada. She is lying. She is a liar." It was her idea. She wanted the new pool. She wanted the marble countertops for the kitchen. She told me that Tyson has insurance and nobody would notice a few missing crates. She drove the minivan. Jada. She was the getaway driver. Becky turned on him. She shoved him hard in the chest. "You coward, you spineless little coward. You told me it was safe. You told me Tyson gave you the code to the padlock." That is when the name dropped. Tyson, the king, the leader of the pack. Tyson finally walked out of the room. He looked like a ghost. He was holding his tie in his hand. He looked at his brother and his sister-in-law. These were the people he had protected, the people he had prioritized over me, the people he had allowed to disrespect me for years. And now they were serving him up on a silver platter to save their own skins. "Shut up," Tyson whispered. "Just shut up, both of you. You are making it worse." Kevin spun around to face his brother. The fear in his eyes had turned to hate. "Making it worse. We are going to jail Tyson Grand larceny. That is a felony. And for what? For a few PlayStations, you were supposed to be the rich one. You were supposed to take care of us. But you were broke. You were borrowing money from your wife this whole time and you didn't tell us. You let us steal to survive while you played CEO. Tyson stood up straighter. He tried to summon some of his old arrogance, but it was gone. "I didn't tell you to steal, Kevin. That is on you. Don't drag me into your mess." Kevin laughed. It was a manic, hysterical laugh. "Oh, I am dragging you, Tyson. I am dragging you all the way down. Who do you think signed the inventory logs? Who do you think cooked the books to hide the missing stock? You did. You signed off on it because you didn't want the insurance rates to go up. You are an accessory after the fact, Tyson. And I will tell the district attorney everything. I will tell them about the fake invoices. I will tell them about the kickbacks from the tire supplier. I will tell them everything if it means I get a plea deal." Becky nodded frantically. "Me too. I will testify. I saw the emails, Tyson. I saw how you moved money around to hide it from the IRS. I will tell them everything, Jada. Just please don't let them take my kids." I stood there in the elevator and watched them. It was like watching a nature documentary where the hyenas turn on the lion when he's wounded. They were tearing each other apart. They were confessing to crimes I didn't even know about yet. Mr. Sterling was typing furiously on his phone. He was taking notes. Every word they said was more ammunition for us. But the most interesting thing wasn't the screaming match between the family members. It was the silence of the outsider. I looked past the brawling trio to the bench near the water cooler. Chloe was sitting there. She wasn't screaming. She wasn't crying. She was calculating. She looked at Tyson. She saw a man who was about to be indicted for tax fraud. She saw a man who had no house, no car, and no credit card. She saw a liability. She looked at Becky and Kevin. She saw a trailer park future. Then she looked at her wrist. I watched closely. She was wearing the Rolex Daytona that Tyson had given her for their 1-month anniversary. He had told her it cost $30,000. He had told her it was an investment. Chloe unclasped the watch. She turned it over in her hand. She looked at the back of the case. She scratched it with her fingernail. The gold plating flaked off. I saw her sneer. It was a look of pure disgust. It wasn't real gold. It was a cheap knockoff, probably bought from the same guy Kevin sold the stolen electronics to. Chloe shook her head. She didn't throw the watch at Tyson. That would be too dramatic. She simply dropped it into the trash can next to the water cooler. Clunk. She stood up. She smoothed out her short red dress. She picked up her bag. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't ask if Tyson was okay. She pulled out her phone. I could see the screen reflection in the glass of the framed artwork on the wall. She opened a dating app. She swiped past Tyson's profile. She typed a message to a new contact named Michael Real Estate. "Hey, handsome, my schedule just cleared up. Want to grab lunch?" She hit send. She walked past the screaming family. Tyson saw her leaving. He reached out a hand. "Chloe, baby, where are you going? We need to stick together. I can fix this." Chloe didn't even break stride. She didn't look back. She pressed the button for the other elevator. Tyson yelled after her, "Chloe, I love you." The doors of the second elevator opened. Chloe stepped inside. She looked at Tyson one last time. "You are broke, Tyson, and you are going to prison. I don't date inmates." The doors closed. She was gone. Tyson looked crushed. He looked like a balloon that had lost all its air. The love of his life. The woman he destroyed our marriage for. The woman he humiliated me for. She didn't last 5 minutes once the money ran out. He turned back to Kevin and Becky, but they had stopped screaming. They realized that I was still watching. They all turned to look at me. 3 pairs of eyes filled with fear and regret. "Jada." Tyson stepped forward. His voice was trembling. "Jada, please, we are family. You can't let this happen. You can't let Sterling send those videos to the police. Think about Leo. He doesn't want his father in jail." I looked at him. I really looked at him. I thought about Leo. I thought about how Leo cried when Tyson missed his soccer games to be with Chloe. I thought about how Leo asked why Daddy was always yelling. I stepped forward to the edge of the elevator threshold. "You are right, Tyson. I am thinking about Leo." Tyson let out a breath of relief. "Thank God. I knew you were still reasonable. We can work this out. We can." I cut him off. "I am thinking that Leo deserves a father who is not a thief. I am thinking that Leo deserves to know that actions have consequences. And I am thinking that the best way to protect Leo is to make sure the people who steal from his inheritance are nowhere near him." I looked at Becky. "You wanted to be part of the elite." "Becky? Well, congratulations. You are about to be part of a very exclusive club, the federal penitentiary system." I looked at Kevin. "And you, Kevin, you wanted to be your own boss. You are going to have plenty of time to work on your business plan in your cell." I nodded to Mr. Sterling. "Let's go. We have a meeting with the district attorney in 20 minutes. Mr. Sterling released the door. "Wait, Jada, no!" Tyson screamed. He lunged for the door, but it was too late. The metal doors slid shut. The last thing I saw was Tyson falling to his knees in the hallway of the law firm, clutching the empty air where his life used to be. The elevator started to descend. Mr. Sterling put his phone in his pocket. "That was brutal, ma'am." I fixed my cufflink. "No, Sterling. That wasn't brutal. That was business. They audited my kindness, and they found out it had expired." The elevator hit the ground floor. The bell dinged. I walked out into the lobby. The sun was shining outside. It was a beautiful day. I had one more stop to make: the bank. I had to formally foreclose on the King Transport headquarters, but as I walked to my car, I felt lighter. The anger was gone. The resentment was gone. All that was left was clarity. I had cut out the cancer. Now I could finally heal. But the war wasn't over yet. Tyson was down, but a cornered animal is dangerous. And I knew that once the shock wore off, he would try one last desperate move. He wouldn't come for the money anymore. He knew that was gone. He would come for the only thing I had left that he could touch: my past. He knew secrets about my family that I had buried deep, secrets that could ruin my reputation if they got out. I got into my Aston Martin. I checked my phone. There was a text from an unknown number. It wasn't Tyson. It was someone from my old neighborhood, someone I hadn't spoken to in 10 years. "Tyson just called me. He is offering $5 grand for dirt on you. Should I take it?" I smiled. "Let him try." I started the engine. If he wanted to dig up the past, he was going to find out that I had buried more than just secrets in that old neighborhood. I pulled out into traffic. "Bring it on, Tyson. You are playing checkers. I am playing 4D chess. And I am about to clear the board." The automatic glass doors of the King Transport headquarters slid open with a soft hiss. I stepped into the lobby. It was 9 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday. The air conditioning was humming, and the smell of industrial carpet cleaner hung in the air. Behind me walked a phalanx of people. Mr. Sterling was on my right holding a leather portfolio. On my left was the lead forensic auditor from Deloitte, a woman named Sarah with sharp glasses and a sharper mind. Behind them were 4 uniformed security guards from a private firm. They were not the mall cops Tyson hired. These men were ex-military. They wore black tactical uniforms and carried themselves with a silent, terrifying discipline. The receptionist, a young girl named Jasmine, looked up from her computer. Her eyes went wide. She saw me. She saw the army behind me. She reached for the phone to warn Tyson, but I simply held up a hand. "Don't, Jasmine," I said. My voice was soft, but it carried across the silent lobby. "Put the phone down. You work for me now." Jasmine froze. She looked at the security guards. She slowly put the receiver back in the cradle. "Is he in there?" I asked. She nodded. "He is in the conference room with the leasing agents. He is shouting a lot." I smiled. "Thank you, Jasmine. You can take an early lunch break. Go get a coffee. Take your time." She grabbed her purse and ran out the front door without looking back. I walked past the reception desk. I walked down the long hallway lined with framed photos of Tyson shaking hands with minor local politicians. Photos he had paid to have taken. Photos that fed his ego. I could hear his voice booming from the conference room at the end of the hall. The walls were glass, but the blinds were drawn. It didn't matter. His desperation was loud enough to penetrate concrete. "I am telling you, it is a banking error," he was screaming. "The funds are there. Just give me 24 hours. If you take the trucks now, you are killing the business." I signaled to the security guards. 2 of them stayed by the door. 2 of them flanked me. Mr. Sterling reached out and opened the heavy glass door. We walked in. The room smelled of fear and stale sweat. Tyson was standing at the head of the table. His tie was undone. His hair was messy. He looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. Sitting across from him were 3 men in gray suits. The repo men from the leasing company. They looked bored. They had heard these excuses 1,000 times before. When I walked in, the room went silent. Tyson looked up. For a second he looked relieved. He thought I was there to save him. He thought I was there to write a check. "Jada," he breathed. "Thank God. Tell these vultures. Tell them about the trust. Tell them we have the money." I didn't look at him. I looked at the lead leasing agent. "Gentlemen," I said, "I apologize for the noise. My name is Jada King. I am the owner of JK Ventures." The agent stood up. He recognized the name. "Ms. King, we received your email last night. We were told you hold the senior debt position." I nodded. "I do. I hold the primary lien on all assets, including the building, the inventory, and the operating licenses." I motioned to Mr. Sterling. He placed a thick stack of documents on the table. "This is the notice of default. As of midnight last night, King Transport has violated 3 covenants of its loan agreement with JK Ventures. First, failure to maintain liquidity. Second, engaging in criminal activity, specifically tax fraud and embezzlement. And third, insolvency." I looked at Tyson. Under the terms of the master agreement which Mr. Tyson King signed 3 years ago, JK Ventures is exercising its right to acceleration. We are calling in the full loan amount immediately, $5 million. Tyson's jaw dropped. He looked from me to the documents to the agents. "What?" "No. Jada, what are you doing?" "Acceleration. You can't do that. That bankrupts the company." I continued speaking to the agents, ignoring him completely. "Since the borrower cannot pay the $5 million, JK Ventures is exercising its right to step in. We are seizing the collateral, effective immediately. I am assuming control of King Transport. I am the new CEO. I turned to the agents. "You don't need to repossess the trucks. I will cover the lease payments. My auditor, Sarah, has the wire transfer ready. We will bring the accounts current by noon." The agents looked at each other. They smiled. They didn't care who ran the company as long as they got paid. "That works for us, Ms. King," the lead agent said. He shook my hand. They packed up their briefcases and left. Now it was just me, Tyson, and the security guards. Tyson stood there shaking. He looked at the empty chairs where the agents had been. He looked at the company logo on the wall, the big K with a crown on top. You took my company," he whispered. I walked over to the head of the table, the spot where he was standing. "Excuse me," I said. "You are in my seat." Tyson didn't move. He grabbed the edge of the table. His knuckles were white. "This is illegal, Jada. You can't just walk in here and steal my life's work. I built this. I drove the first truck. I painted the walls. I pulled out a chair and sat down. I opened my laptop. You drove the truck." "Tyson, but who paid for the gas? You painted the walls, but who bought the paint?" I typed a command into the system. I revoked his admin access on the spot. Sarah, the auditor, began placing tags on the office equipment. Asset 001. Asset 002. Tyson looked around wildly. He realized it was actually happening. The walls were closing in. He ran around the table and fell to his knees beside my chair. He actually knelt. The man who had looked down on me from the balcony 2 days ago was now on the floor looking up at me. "Jada, please." He grabbed my hand. I pulled it away as if he were burning hot. "Jada, don't do this. Look at me. It's Tyson, your husband. We can work this out. I will fire Chloe. I already fired her. I will do whatever you want. Just don't take the company." He was crying now. Ugly, snotty tears. "This company is my identity, Jada. It's my name on the door. King Transport. It's our legacy. Think about Leo. Do you want his father to be a failure? Do you want to destroy the King family name?" I looked down at him. I looked at the top of his head where his hair was starting to thin. I looked at his expensive suit that he bought with stolen money. I felt a cold clarity wash over me. I stood up. I towered over him. I signaled to the security guards to come closer. I wanted them to hear this. I wanted everyone to hear this. I walked over to the wall where the giant logo was painted. King Transport. I ran my hand over the letters. "You think this belongs to you because of your name?" I said softly. Tyson nodded, wiping his eyes. "Yes, it's our name. We are the Kings. We are a team. You said it yourself, Jada. We are partners." I laughed. It was a sound devoid of humor. "Partners? No, Tyson. We were never partners. You were a parasite, and I was the host." I turned back to him. "And about the name?" I walked back and stood right in front of him. "You keep saying King is your name. You keep saying I should respect the name because I married into it." I leaned down so my face was inches from his. "But you forgot something, Tyson. You forgot who I was before I met you." Tyson looked confused. "What? What do you mean you were Jada?" "Jada." He trailed off. He tried to remember. He had been so self-absorbed for so long, he had actually forgotten my history. I straightened up and smoothed my blazer. My father's name was Marcus King. My grandfather's name was Josiah King. They were not from Atlanta. They were from Chicago. They built things. They owned land. Tyson's eyes went wide. "Wait, your maiden name?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, my maiden name is King. I never changed my name when I married you, Tyson. I didn't take your name. You just happened to have the same last name as me. It was a coincidence, a funny little joke of fate." I pointed to the logo on the wall. "When I named this company King Transport, I wasn't naming it after you. I was naming it after me. I was naming it after my father who taught me how to save money. I was naming it after my grandfather who taught me that land is the only real wealth." Tyson looked like he had been punched in the gut. "No, that's not true. You're lying." I pulled my passport out of my purse. I threw it on the table. "Open it." He reached out with shaking hands. He opened the blue book. Jada Marie King. He looked at the date of issue. 10 years ago, before we were married. He looked up at me with horror. "You mean, this whole time?" "Yes," I said. "This whole time you thought you were the king of the castle. But you were just a court jester living in the Queen's palace." I gestured to the office. "This company bears the name King. Correct. But it is my name. It is my legacy." I looked him dead in the eye. "And you?" I paused. Let the silence stretch out until it was painful. "You are just an employee who was fired for cause." Tyson collapsed. He literally slumped against the table legs. The air left his lungs. The reality of his insignificance crushed him. He wasn't the founder. He wasn't the owner. He wasn't even the namesake. He was nothing. I turned to the head of security. "Mr. Henderson, please remove the trespasser." Mr. Henderson stepped forward. He was a giant of a man. He grabbed Tyson by the arm and hauled him to his feet. "Let's go, sir. Don't make a scene." Tyson didn't fight. He was too in shock. He let them drag him towards the door. But as he reached the threshold, he turned back one last time. "Jada, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? I have nothing." I sat down in the CEO chair. It was comfortable. It fit me perfectly. I swiveled around to face him. "You have hands, Tyson. You have a back. I heard Amazon is hiring warehouse workers. Maybe you can drive a forklift." I picked up a pen and started signing the transfer documents. "Goodbye, Tyson." The security guards dragged him out. I heard his shoes squeaking on the linoleum. I heard the lobby door open and close, and then silence. I looked at Sarah, the auditor. She was staring at me with a look of pure awe. "That was intense," she said. I smiled. A real, genuine smile. "That was necessary, Sarah. Now let's get to work. We have a lot of debt to clear and a lot of mess to clean up." I looked out the window at the parking lot. I saw Tyson standing on the curb. He looked lost. He looked at the building one last time. Then he put his hands in his pockets and started walking down the road. He was walking towards the bus stop. I turned my chair away from the window. I didn't need to watch him anymore. He was the past. I looked at the spreadsheets on my screen. The numbers were red, but I knew how to make them black. I pressed the button on the intercom. "Jasmine." "Are you back from coffee?" "Yes, Ms. King." Jasmine's voice was bright and eager. "Good. Send an email to all staff. Mandatory meeting in the cafeteria in 30 minutes. Tell them the new CEO would like to introduce herself, and tell them nobody is losing their job, except for one person." I released the button. I took a deep breath. The air in the office felt different. It didn't smell like sweat and fear anymore. It smelled like opportunity. I was 30 years old. I was a single mother. And I was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar logistics empire. They had tried to bury me. They had tried to erase me. But they forgot that I was a seed. And now it was harvest time. I picked up the framed photo of Tyson on the desk, the one where he was holding a trophy he bought for himself. I dropped it into the trash can. Glass shattered. I pulled a photo out of my purse. It was a picture of me and Leo. We were laughing. I placed it on the desk. Perfect. Now the office was officially under new management, and the first order of business was success. The weeks that followed the takeover were quiet for me, but they were deafening for my enemies. I sat in my new office overlooking the city and watched the dominoes fall one by one. I did not have to lift a finger. I simply let the legal system and the laws of economics do the work for me. Tyson was the first to fall. He thought he could charm his way out of the IRS investigation. He thought he could flash a smile and explain away 5 years of tax evasion and embezzlement. But the federal government does not care about your smile. They care about your audit trail. And thanks to my team, they had every single receipt. The trial was swift and brutal. I was there on the last day. I sat in the back row wearing a black dress and dark sunglasses. Tyson stood before the judge. He looked thin. His suit was wrinkled because he could no longer afford the dry cleaner. The judge read the verdict. "Guilty on all counts. 5 years in federal prison." Tyson collapsed into his chair. He looked back at me. He mouthed the word, "sorry." I just stared at him. It was too little too late. But the prison sentence was not immediate. While his lawyers filed desperate appeals, Tyson had to survive. He was out on bail, but he was destitute. No money, no home, no car. He had to get a job. I heard through the grapevine that he applied for executive positions at other logistics companies. They all laughed at him. His reputation was radioactive. Nobody wanted to hire the man who stole from his own wife and bankrupted his family legacy. So Tyson King, the man who used to scream at his drivers for being 5 minutes late, found himself on the other side of the loading dock. He got a job at a massive fulfillment center for an online retailer. The graveyard shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., minimum wage. One night I drove by the facility. I parked my Aston Martin in the shadows and watched. I saw him walking out for his break. He was wearing an orange safety vest over a cheap t-shirt. He looked exhausted. He was smoking a cigarette with shaking hands. A supervisor who looked barely 20 years old walked up to him and shouted in his face, "King, get back inside. Your quota is dropping. If you miss another scan, you are fired." Tyson threw the cigarette down and scrambled back inside. He looked like a beaten dog. The man who used to sip scotch on a balcony and judge the world was now sweating for $15 an hour packing boxes for people who had more money than him. It was a poetic justice that no screenwriter could have written better. But Tyson was just the beginning. The fate of the enablers was even more satisfying. Kevin and Becky learned the hard way that lifestyle inflation is a dangerous game. They had lived in a McMansion they could not afford, driving cars they did not own, paying for it all with money they stole from my warehouse. When I cut off the cash flow, the house of cards collapsed instantly. The bank foreclosed on their house in 30 days. I saw the listing online. It was sold at auction for a fraction of what they paid. They tried to move into an apartment in the city, but their credit score was destroyed by the lawsuits I filed against them for the theft. No landlord would touch them. They had nowhere to go. Well, almost nowhere. There is a trailer park on the outskirts of the county called Shady Pines. It is the kind of place where the roads are made of gravel and the air smells of burning rubber. That is where the Kings landed. I sent a private investigator to check on them. He sent me photos. Their double-wide trailer was rusted. The Range Rover was gone, repossessed by the dealer. In its place sat a rusted sedan that looked like it might explode if you turned the key. Kevin spent his days sitting on the porch, drinking cheap beer, blaming everyone but himself. But Becky suffered the most. Becky, the woman who used to brag about her high standards. Becky, the woman who treated waitstaff like garbage. Becky, who once told me that I was lucky she even spoke to me. She had to work. She got a job at a greasy spoon diner off the interstate, the kind of place where truckers stop for eggs and coffee at 3 in the morning. I decided to pay her a visit. I walked in on a Tuesday afternoon. The diner was busy. It smelled of bacon grease and despair. I sat in a booth in the corner and pulled a menu over my face. I watched her. She was wearing a pink uniform that was too tight. There was a mustard stain on her apron. Her hair, which used to be perfectly highlighted, was pulled back in a messy ponytail showing her dark roots. She was running from table to table carrying heavy trays. Her feet were swollen in cheap orthopedic shoes. "Hey, sweetie, where's my coffee?" A large man in a trucker hat yelled at her. "I am coming, sir, I am coming," Becky said. Her voice was thin and tired. She rushed over with the pot. Her hands were shaking. She poured the coffee and spilled a little on the table. The man slammed his fist down. "Look what you did, you stupid cow. You ruined my newspaper. Can't you do anything right?" I watched Becky flinch. I watched her eyes fill with tears. "I am so sorry, sir. Let me clean it up." She grabbed a rag and started wiping the table. The manager walked over. He was a short man with a thick neck. "What is the problem here?" She spilled coffee on me. "She is incompetent." The manager turned to Becky. "Becky, this is the 3rd time today. You are too slow and you are clumsy. If you mess up one more order, I am docking your pay. Do you understand me?" "Yes, sir, I understand." She looked down at the floor. I recognized that look. It was the same look I used to have when she made fun of me at family dinners. It was the look of someone who had no power. I signaled her over. "Excuse me, miss." She walked over to my booth without looking up. She had her notepad ready. "What can I get for you, honey?" I lowered the menu. "Hello, Becky." She froze. The pen dropped from her hand and rolled under the table. "Jada," she whispered. Her face went pale white. She looked at my Chanel suit. She looked at my diamond earrings. Then she looked down at her grease-stained apron. "Please," she said. "Please don't. Don't make a scene. I need this job. Kevin isn't working. We have bills." I looked at her. I felt a surge of pity, but I crushed it. Pity is for people who made mistakes, not for people who made choices. I am not here to make a scene, Becky. I am here to order lunch. I pointed to the menu. "I will have the club sandwich." "And Becky?" She looked at me terrified. "Make sure the bread is toasted. I hate soggy bread." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, Jada. I mean Ms. King. Right away." She ran to the kitchen. I ate my sandwich. It was terrible, but it tasted like victory. I left $100 tip on the table, not because I was kind, but because I wanted her to know that the money she used to worship was now pocket change to me. As I walked out, I saw her staring at the bill, crying. She wasn't crying because of the money. She was crying because she finally understood the hierarchy. And then there was Chloe, the beautiful Chloe, the aspiring influencer, the girl who thought she could steal my husband and my life. Her downfall was digital, and it was permanent. After she fled the deposition, she tried to rebrand herself. She deleted the photos of Tyson. She tried to act like nothing happened. But I had sent the evidence of the fake Birkin bag and the embezzlement to a few popular Instagram accounts that expose fake influencers. One morning, I woke up to a notification. The account Fake Birkin Slayer had posted a side-by-side photo. On the left was Chloe posing with her orange bag. On the right was a zoomed-in photo of the stitching. The caption read, "Warning to all brands. Influencer Chloe is promoting counterfeit luxury goods funded by stolen corporate money. The bag is a fake. The watch is a fake. And apparently her lifestyle is a fake." Hashtag exposed hashtag fraud. The internet did the rest. The comments were brutal. She is a mistress and a thief. Imagine flexing with a $20 bag while the wife owns the company. Embarrassing. Chloe tried to fight back. She posted a video crying, saying she was a victim. She said Tyson tricked her. But then another video surfaced. The video from the security camera in my driveway showing her wearing my robe and laughing while Tyson threw my clothes on the lawn. I had leaked it anonymously. That video went viral. 5 million views in 24 hours. The brands dropped her instantly. Fashion Nova sent a public tweet canceling her contract. Her teeth whitening sponsor fired her. Even the tea detox company cut ties. She lost her apartment because she couldn't pay rent without Tyson's support. She had to move back in with her parents in a small town in Alabama. I checked her profile one last time before I blocked her. She had posted a selfie. No makeup, no filters. She looked tired. She was working at a local hair salon, washing hair. The caption said, "Starting over. Humble beginnings." I laughed. It wasn't humble beginnings. It was a return to reality. They were all exactly where they belonged. Tyson was in a cage. Becky was in a trailer. Chloe was in obscurity. They had tried to play a game they didn't understand. They thought money was a toy. They thought power was a given. I stood up from my desk. I walked to the window. The sun was setting over Atlanta. The city looked beautiful. I picked up my phone. I had a call scheduled with the investors for my new project, a scholarship fund for single mothers who wanted to start their own businesses. I was going to use the money I saved from cleaning up Tyson's mess to help women who were just like I used to be. Women who were underestimated, women who were silenced. I was going to give them a voice. But first, I had to go home. I had a date. Not with a man, but with my son. We were going to build a Lego castle, and this time nobody was going to knock it down. I grabbed my keys. The nightmare was over. The dream had just begun. I walked out of the office and turned off the lights. The darkness didn't scare me anymore. I was the one who controlled the switch. 6 months is a long time in the world of business. In 6 months, you can bankrupt a company. In 6 months, you can rebuild an empire. And in 6 months, you can completely rewrite your own DNA. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling mirror in my new penthouse, the one I bought with my own money, the one that did not have a balcony where a man could look down on me. I adjusted the lapel of my suit. It was a custom Alexander McQueen power suit in electric blue, the color of a flame that burns the hottest. I looked at my reflection. The tired woman with the frizzy hair and the stained t-shirt was gone. She had been evicted along with Tyson. In her place stood Jada King, the CEO, the mother, the survivor. On the coffee table made of glass and gold lay a stack of magazines. The one on top was Forbes. I walked over and picked it up. The cover was glossy and cool to the touch. There I was, standing with my arms crossed, staring straight into the camera lens. I wasn't smiling. I looked dangerous. The headline read in bold white letters, "The Secret Logistics Queen: How Jada King Turned a Failing Trucking Company into a $100 million empire in under a year." I ran my finger over the letters. For 5 years, Tyson had begged Forbes to feature him. He had hired publicists. He had sent fruit baskets to the editors. They never even called him back. I didn't ask for this cover. They called me. They called me after I acquired 3 competitor firms in a single quarter. They called me after I implemented a profit-sharing program for the drivers that increased efficiency by 40%. They called me because success screams louder than desperation. I put the magazine down. It was time to go. I grabbed my purse. It was not a Birkin. I didn't need a Birkin to prove I was rich. I carried a sleek leather briefcase that contained the deed to the new community center I was opening in my old neighborhood. I took the private elevator down to the garage. The air in the garage was cool. My footsteps echoed on the concrete. Leaning against my car was Julian. Julian was different. He was not a boy pretending to be a man. He was 40 years old. He was a neurosurgeon who spent his weekends volunteering at free clinics. He didn't need my money. He had his own. He didn't need my status. He saved lives for a living. When he saw me, he didn't check his watch. He didn't complain that I was late. He straightened his tie and smiled. "Hello, beautiful," he said. He opened the passenger door for me, not because I couldn't do it myself, but because he wanted to. I slid into the seat of the Bentley Continental GT convertible. The leather smelled of success. Julian got in the driver's seat. He looked at me with eyes that actually saw me. "Ready for the gala?" he asked. I nodded. "Ready." He started the engine. The roof was down. The Atlanta sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. As we pulled out onto Peachtree Street, the wind caught my hair. I felt free. I thought about the woman I used to be, the woman who walked on eggshells, the woman who hid her brilliance so her husband wouldn't feel insecure. I looked at the city passing by. I saw the King transport trucks on the highway. They looked clean. They looked efficient. The drivers waved when they saw my car. They knew who signed their checks, and they knew I respected them. I turned to look at Julian. He was humming along to the radio. He reached over and took my hand. His grip was firm but gentle. It was such a simple gesture. Holding hands. But with Tyson, holding hands always felt like a trap, like he was holding me back. With Julian, it felt like an anchor, keeping me steady while I soared. My phone started to ring. It was connected to the car's Bluetooth system, so the sound filled the cabin. I looked at the screen on the dashboard. Incoming call. Unknown number. Correction facility. The music stopped. The car went silent. Julian glanced at the screen. He knew the story. He knew everything. "Do you want me to decline it?" he asked. I stared at the screen. I knew who it was. It was Tyson. He had been in federal prison for 4 months now. He had used all his phone privileges, calling lawyers who wouldn't take his case and friends who wouldn't answer. Now he was calling me. Maybe he wanted to apologize. Maybe he wanted to beg for money for the commissary. Maybe he just wanted to hear a familiar voice because the silence of his cell was driving him mad. I thought about answering. I could pick up. I could tell him about the Forbes cover. I could tell him that our son Leo made the honor roll. I could tell him that the company was making more money in a month than he made in a year. I could gloat. I could twist the knife. But then I realized something. Tyson didn't deserve my anger. Anger is an emotion. It requires energy. It requires connection. He didn't deserve my pity either. He deserved exactly what he gave me for 5 years. Nothing. I reached out my hand. My manicured finger hovered over the screen. They thought I was their shadow. That was their biggest mistake. They forgot how physics works. A shadow only exists when there is an object blocking the light. Tyson thought he was the object. He thought he was the big, important thing standing in the center of my universe, casting a shadow over me. But he was wrong. He wasn't the object. He was just a stain on the window, and I had finally cleaned the glass. The shadow was gone because the obstruction was gone. And me. I wasn't the shadow. I wasn't the reflection. I was the light source. I was the sun. And the sun does not speak to the darkness. The sun simply burns it away. I pressed the red button labeled Block Caller. The ringing stopped. The screen went back to the navigation map. Julian squeezed my hand. "Everything okay?" he asked. I looked at him and smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached my eyes. "Everything is perfect," I said. "Just a telemarketer." Julian laughed. "They are persistent, aren't they?" "Yes," I said. "But eventually they learn that nobody is buying what they are selling." I looked back at the road. The sun had dipped below the horizon, but the city lights were turning on. A million little stars waking up. I took a deep breath of the evening air. I had 18,000 employees. I had a son who looked up to me. I had a partner who respected me. And I had a future that was entirely my own. I wasn't Jada the victim anymore. I wasn't Jada the avenger anymore. I was just Jada. And that was more than enough. "Drive," I said to Julian. "Let's not be late." He pressed the accelerator. The car surged forward into the night, leaving the ghosts of the past in the rear-view mirror where they belonged. Small, distant, and fading fast into the black. Jada King's journey is more than just a satisfying revenge fantasy. It is a profound lesson in the dynamics of power, identity, and self-worth. For years, Jada allowed herself to be perceived as the shadow, the quiet, supportive wife standing behind the successful husband. Her story teaches us a critical truth about perception versus reality. A shadow only exists because there is a light source being obstructed. Tyson thought he was the giant casting the shadow, but he never realized that Jada was the sun providing the light. When she decided to stop shining on him, he didn't just lose his lifestyle, he lost his visibility. Furthermore, this narrative serves as a stark reminder that financial independence is the ultimate shield. In a world where loyalty can expire and relationships can shatter, having your own name on the deed, your own capital, and your own resources is not just a luxury, it is a survival strategy. Jada didn't win simply because she had money. She won because she had literacy. She understood the contracts, the laws, and the numbers. While her husband was busy building an image, she was busy building an infrastructure. Finally, Jada teaches us the art of strategic silence. In an age of oversharing, she reminds us that real power does not scream, it executes. She didn't argue with Becky at the dinner table. She didn't scream at Tyson on the lawn. She saved her voice for the moments that mattered in the boardroom and the courtroom. She proves that the best response to disrespect is not an emotional explosion, but a calculated cold removal of access. When you stop funding the people who belittle you, you realize that their power over you was always an illusion. You don't need to destroy your enemies with your fists. Sometimes you just need to turn on the lights and let them see that they are standing in your house. If Jada's victory gave you the satisfaction you were looking for, please hit that like button and share this story with a woman who needs to be reminded of her power. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever played the long game to teach someone a lesson, or are you currently building your own empire in silence? Type "I am the sun" in the comments if you are ready to stop being a shadow. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story about justice served cold. Until next time, keep your head high and your standards higher.